drive? That
Um,
seems like more of a Midwest thing, where
well,
because it's like
again,
it's only 10 hours. I'll just
Midwest
drive.
roots, Midwest
Hmm.
roots.
Right, sure. It's you can't. It's I've already got the car. Imagine having to buy a whole airport. Ugh.
All right. Well, hey, first of all, I am 6'3". I don't fit in planes very well.
Hmm.
I would much rather drive 16 hours in my own car and
Hmm.
have a car when I get there.
Yeah,
All right, let's see
I can appreciate
here.
that. I do a
Trying
lot
to
of air travel.
see.
I like that with the current restrictions on things that a lot of airlines are leaving that middle seat free
Hmm.
because I have uh, like a 54-inch chest. So
Ah,
it's like a linebacker sitting in the seat. So even in the best of times, people are like, it's not worth it. I'm just
yep.
gonna I'm gonna go sit right behind the wing. Can you put a bathroom right by the wing of the plane, because that's where I want to sit. The worst seat on the plane rather than sit next to this guy. But I'm all smiles. I'm like, hey, hey, this one's free, and they're like,
All right. Hey, for anyone who is watching right now on Retro Maccast, we have a special guest, Ron McAdams, and we will get to the actual show here in just a moment. All right. Of course, it's kind of weird. So I've got the YouTube window open so I can
mm-hmm,
see the comments easier. And there's a crazy delay between us talking
mm-hmm.
now before when it shows up on YouTube. So just making sure the audio is turned down.
Absolutely. I opened up the other window and I got sucked into like a time warp for a second there. I was like, wow, well, there is a delay. But I really appreciate that people saw um, like that I was the guest and then still showed up anyway.
Ah,
That's commitment to your product.
hey Klaus, hey Chris. Good morning to you both. All right. Well, all right. So tell you what, it is 8 a.m. So let us go ahead and start. So James is not going to be in the show today, so it's going to be Ron and me. And let's go ahead and start our. So this is where I start recording the audio portion, and I will hand these off to James, and he will do his magic to them.
Now, do we
So
want to make sure that we belay any rumors up front that James is fine? Um, he's doing
yes, I
okay.
suppose in this era, yeah, no, James is under the weather, but I don't think it's COVID under the weather. I think it's
Oh,
just yeah. So all right, so let's go ahead and welcome to the Retro Maccast. This is, instead of James and John today, it is John and Ron. Good morning, Ron.
hey, good morning, John. How are things today?
Great, great. And we have Ron McAdams on today. He's going to be our main part of the segment, and we're going to talk about Marchintosh.
All right.
Besides that, we will have all our normal features of eBay finds and what's in the retro news. So stay tuned. All right, so hey, that was the first part done.
Hey,
Haha.
that's great.
So the next part is going to be let's bring up our. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the eBay window,
Hmm.
so peeps that are watching can see what we are talking about, and let us get that next part started. So I'm going to go ahead and start the audio recording now. All right, so let's take a look and see what we've found on eBay this time around. Um, let's go ahead and start with the first one we found. I found a very nice kind of. It would be a great starter system for somebody. It
Hmm.
is a 128K, possibly 128K Macintosh. They're not sure if it's been upgraded or not, but what we
Right.
have here is a Macintosh keyboard, mouse, Kensington system saver, and a Mac Fast 20, which is a extremely industrial looking SCSI hard
Yeah.
drive.
Hmm.
Yep, that is going to be a beastie one. That's you can just hear that revving up when you start it up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I can smell the reefas burning already. Actually, hey, I wanted to say that this is one of my favorite segments of the podcast. So
Oh,
I'm
hey,
happy to be here to be able to talk about people's very sort of not based in reality dreams about what some of these things might sell for.
right, right. Well, the reason I picked this one is it seems pretty darn reasonable, even
Hmm.
for the issues it has. Like it's missing a key on the keyboard.
Yeah,
But that the Kensington System Saver those are nice. Those are very nice, especially for the old Macs
yeah.
that didn't have a fan because it
Hmm.
helped prolong things. It's got the nice buttons on the front for the
Hmm.
Mac and a hard drive.
Yeah.
This is a model M0001, but again, if it's been upgraded, the person selling it does not know. $100 right now, 13 bids.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Hmm.
other people are watching this thing, which is
Yeah.
pretty nice.
$40 shipping, which makes me think it's not going to arrive in one piece, but uh,
Yeah, it's one of those where you reach out to the customer ahead of
mhm,
time and go, "Hey, listen, I'm going to throw in extra money. You take this someplace and get it
yeah,
shipped,
yeah.
screen down."
Take this to the UPS store and
Uh
let
huh.
them do it. I know that you've got like a bunch of leaves that you raked up out of the yard in the fall, but we're going to need something better to pack this. Actually, something I
Right,
wanted to
right,
point out on this. Number one, love the Snoopy sticker. That
right. Yeah,
that
you can tell
probably
this was a used Macintosh. This thing has
mhm,
been in the house being
yeah.
used for years. Maybe a kid was using it to play some games. Yes, I love the Snoopy
Somebody
sticker.
loved this machine, but
Yeah.
I think that they're really bearing the lead on what the most valuable part of this is, which is the programmer keys, the original programmer keys that are stuck on the side of the
Oh
machine.
right, yeah.
So
Because a
that
lot of
is
times you do find those where they've been lost over the years. Good point,
they're
good
sheared
catch.
off or they're
Mm-hmm.
or they're just missing. But here's the other thing with this machine that I find interesting. They're including a 20 megabyte hard drive
Yeah,
on a
right.
Mac that doesn't have SCSI. So I would
Well,
love
again, I wish they had showed a picture of the ports on the bottom
right because I'm
to.
wondering if it does have because back in the day, a buddy of mine had a like a clip-on
Yeah,
SCSI upgrade for
there is
his
one of
like
those on eBay
512K.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is actually. I almost used that one as one of the links for this.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there is one of the SCSI upgrade boards for the, and also I added more RAM. It basically made it a Mac Plus. You had
Yeah.
it gave you your 4 mega RAM and SCSI. Yeah, so
You
who
throw
knows?
some
Who knows?
128K ROMs in there and 800K floppy support, and there you go.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so let's go over to the next one. So I did pick kind of things that kind of maybe in a way went with something that people might want to do in Marchintosh.
Hmm.
Get an old Mac and see what's going on with it. That is a good starter Mac. If you don't have a Mac, that's a pretty decent one to try to
Hmm.
get up and running. Next one. So the next one I picked was a ThunderScan kit. Includes manuals, software, and it's. I've not seen this box before, and I have to say it's a
Yeah.
big improvement over the original one, which
Hmm.
is what I will call pure unadulterated nightmare fuel, and that is because, I mean,
Yes.
we've got a
Yes.
scary mime holding somebody's face,
Right.
so that is some marketing right there. So I have to say the huge improvement using what is on there now. All
Mhm.
right, let's go back to that view. So yes, we have a ThunderScan, which are great. I really enjoyed them. Last week we talked about the dithering, that was used, the Atkinson dithering, and
Mhm.
this is a prime example of what that could do.
Yeah. And I love these. I think that it was a very ingenious thing. And Andy
Yeah,
Hertzfeld has a great story because he's the inventor of the
yeah,
Thunderscan.
mm-hmm. Yep,
He's got a great story out on folklore.org about
mm-hmm.
kind of him, like the development process on this and then selling it and all that. But it's, if nothing else, even if you never scanned anything,
Yeah.
this is a great piece of Mac history that's just about the innovation of kind of those older machines. And
Mm-hmm.
kind of the neat stuff that people came up with. So,
Well, and also, the fact that there was also a version that worked with the 2GS, which is pretty awesome.
yep.
Yeah.
And I didn't much later. They had like some of these Thunderscan versions that was like the handheld where you kind of drug it along
Well,
the
you had the
paper.
quick scan. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was actually put out by them or
I'm
not.
yeah. I can't remember who did that, but I was kind of
Yeah.
like maybe in the same kind of vein of innovation where it was like, hey,
Right.
we're trying to get these tools into the hands of like average consumers, stuff that was very very expensive way back when.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the scanners, the flatbed
Hmm.
scanners were ridiculous. They cost more than the system back
Oh yeah.
then. So having something that you could plug into your existing hardware, because almost everyone had an image writer.
Hmm.
Maybe not the image writer LQ like think I see in the background of the picture here, but yeah. So this is $85. $85 in
Yeah.
the box. The box is in great shape. It's got the cables. It's got the software. It is. Please read me first. That looks like it was
$85
printed on
to
an
make
image
a
writer.
bid, like or
Oh
make
yeah, or make an offer. Right,
so
right.
it's like you could come in here and say $50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've never played with one of these and you happen to have a setup with an image writer, this is a great. This is a great buy. This is a great find. Fantastic. All right, so our last one. Again, kind of keeping with the things maybe somebody wants to do in Marchintosh, and one of those is repair the gears in their the 512K 128K floppy drive eject mechanism, and because a lot of these are breaking now because they're made of the same plastic that's getting brittle that the computers themselves are made out of.
Absolutely.
Have you ever done any repair like this?
I've never replaced the gear on a Mac floppy drive. I have stripped out. I've stripped out my fair share. Um, but this is actually looking at this deal here. I think normally you'll see around $8, like on Shapeways and stuff like that for these. So this is probably a pretty good price.
Oh yeah,
For four of them, it's
right.
like buy three get one free.
Right,
But
right. Yeah, so $26.70, free shipping. Yeah, but yes, it does look like these are probably resin printed.
hmm
So of course, if you do have your own 3D printer, there are the files out there, so you could actually print your own. But if not, yeah, for $26, get you covered for a couple
Free
of
shipping,
drives. Free
folks.
shipping.
Free
And they're
shipping,
plastic,
folks.
so they shouldn't end up being a folder full of dust.
Yeah, but this is a common sort of repair item for a lot of retro gear. Like if you, it just seems like there was something about some of those plastics on these items kind of in the late '80s, because
Right.
I know that anybody who has played around with the TurboGrafx CD, or if you were one of those cool kids who had the suitcase where it's got the weirdest name product ever, the CD-ROM. It says CD-ROM 2 on it, but if you talk to NEC fanboys, they're like, "Oh, it's CD-ROM square." So, but yeah, it has the similar issue where it's got that sacrificial gear that, yeah, that you basically have to replace. So,
Right. So yeah, you get one of these, and then you look at the James Wages did a great video on cleaning and re-greasing the those floppy drives.
and a recap too. That's
Well, yeah,
something
I mean
else.
he's got
Yeah.
a ton of other great videos as well. James Wages, he's kind of the Bob Ross of Mac repair. He's just got a very nice, calm way of working you through. I used one of his videos for when I was recapping the analog board for an SE30. I still need to work on my Surface Mount. That is for another day. So all right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop recording on that one. Let's see if we've got what we got going on in the. So I see David Fretz has joined us. Hey David, Apple 2GS had the Thunderscan. Yeah, I've got the there it is. It's the Quickie hand scanner. So, oh, and David Fret says he's used this vendor for the gear and they work. So very good.
Oh,
Very nice.
the
Good to
vendor of the
have
gears.
confirmation.
It's I bought the gears and it turns out they were just made out of packing peanuts. But the vendor,
But the vendor
they
worked
shipped on
great. The
time, so
shipping,
5
right.
stars.
All right, so let me go ahead and get the Marchintosh page up.
Yeah.
Besides having it in the background on my
Mm-hmm.
beautiful Lime iMac.
Yeah,
Or a
for people
MacBook.
with good vision.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah, we're just going to... I'll just bring the camera in closer. No, all right. No, I won't. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and... All right, so Marchintosh, I think it was maybe about 3 weeks ago when I Facebook all of a sudden came
Mm-hmm.
up with a thing about Marchintosh, and I'm like, I think even maybe somebody in the comments mentioned Marchintosh, and I didn't know what it was at that time. I'm like, oh, somebody was just making a play on Macintosh in March, but I didn't realize it was this event that was started by you and one other gentleman kind of came up with this concept, correct?
Yeah, it's this is all kind of based off a conversation that I had with Joe from Joe's Computer Museum. Like, comment, subscribe. He and I were like, there's so many of these other events out there that capitalize on retro computing for different sort of classic communities. So, like you've got Septandy and you have Dawsember, where everybody kind of pulls together to like share a hashtag and kind of drive content to one another's site. And I was like, why doesn't the Mac community have something like that? I mean, we may not be as big as the DOS retro gaming community, but that's probably why we need to work together more closely to try to get some of our great content out there. And so what we sort of settled on was Marchintosh. The event itself is, again, it's trying to kind of capitalize on those retro gaming month-long events where people just create all kinds of cool content and share it kind of under one centralized sort of hashtag, so that way that we can see media impressions across different platforms. We have a cool website that is marchintosh.com. So if you hop out there, you can read more information. But it's really something that a lot of these other events that just has happened is that there does seem to be like this idea that you have to be so big or something, or your channel or your blog or your podcast has so many listeners to kind of be able to participate. And we wanted to absolutely tear down those artificial barriers and just say, if you're making fun things, if you're making cool content and you want to share it with other people, get on this event. So that way that we can all maybe expand kind of our own fandoms. So if you're one of these folks that has a YouTube channel and you might make a Mac video like once every 6 months or something like that, make it during Marchintosh. Drive people, because there's so much overlap in these communities. You'll find some new viewership. If you have a blog where you write like your experiences about like the old Mac days, maybe kind of like a folklore.org, I'd love to read that article.
We don't want any Steve/fiction though. No, right out.
Well, I don't know. It's whatever you're into, but try to keep it PG, folks. It may not be right for me, but it's right for somebody. The idea is just like whatever it is, however you make things. I want to read those things. I want to see those things. I want to listen to that podcast where you talk about some of your favorite HyperCard stacks from when you were a kid, or I want to hear, or I want to see like your art project where you and your kids like just got out some watercolors and painted old Macs, or painted kind of some of your impressions of like what it was like to be an old computer user back in the day. Share that love with other people in the community. So
one of the things I want to mention, so you talk about the old computer users from back in the day, but I have to say when I got on the the video meeting the other day, seeing these young kids like Chris Logan, who's in the
Yeah.
chat right now. Hi, Chris.
Hmm. Hey, Chris.
You got these young kids surrounded by hardware that's all older than they are
Yeah.
by many years,
Hmm.
and so I find that very exciting that you've got this coming in new perspective versus people like you and me who kind of grew up with it.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what they come up with because they do have a very different mindset from
Yes.
people that grew up in that period, and
I think
I'm
that they
excited
have
about that.
an exciting and unique perspective on this
Yeah.
hobby. And
Hmm.
just like classic cars or people that collect and
Sure.
restore old like tools and things like that,
Hmm.
just because you didn't necessarily grow up when it was a thing doesn't mean that you're like on the outside looking in on some of these things. It's I want
No,
to I
no,
want to see I want to hear those stories. I want to see those
absolutely.
videos. So I know that Logan had talked about, and again, I was really impressed by kind of younger guys that stopped in the meeting the other night, just because it makes me feel good that one day when I pass on, that there will at least be a few people at the estate sale that that maybe know what all this stuff is that I've collected up over the years.
Well,
But
Chris has just told us that he's actually 42. He just looks young. So,
oh,
holy cow,
really?
Chris!
Oh, wow! Hold
You
it
must
together,
be
man.
wow. Yeah, he must be drinking whatever Paul Rudd drinks.
That's absolutely. But the event itself, it's really easy to participate. All you have to do is go out to marchintosh.com, and you can even do it on your classic Mac because the website is kind of written in a way that it should be fairly uh, low intensity for some of these older browsers. But
This is running on Netscape right now behind me. I've got my yes. So
nice,
yes, it rendered pretty darn good in Netscape.
that's great. So, but who can participate? Anybody that wants to create some content in help and support of the event. And the content that we're kind of looking for, because this is about Macintosh retro computing, um, it's something from the 68K or PowerPC era. So not really Intel Macs, not M1, not some of the newer things, and classic versions of the Macintosh operating system. So like pretty much everything up to OS 9. Now, that's not to say that if you had like a really cool idea for I'm running OS 10 on my, you know, a slightly more modern PowerPC Mac, and I want to talk about gaming in classic mode, I want to watch that video. That sounds awesome.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and you don't have to make something that is like, oh my gosh, I spent 3 weeks like filming all this stuff. You could do something as simple as a tour of your collection. If you wanted to, I think this was an idea that came up the other night where if you're like, I love power books and I've got 2 or 3 power books. But I'd like to talk about like other people's collections too. There's nothing saying that you can't work with other people
Hmm.
and collaborate on a video where it's like have like 5 or 6 of your friends like show off their very favorite PowerBook model or their very favorite retro Mac and throw it all in one video. It doesn't have to be like something you'd see on network TV. It's just about like kind of sharing your excitement about the hobby.
That is great. Now, when so I noticed so you've got the Marchintosh page here. Have you thought about setting up like an event page in Facebook so people could post links to
Mhm.
any of their Marchintosh stuff, or is there a Discord or anything like that?
There is as it says right now, we do have a Facebook page. It's just called Marchintosh.
Okay.
Eventually, so people are welcome to go out there and post their links, or like the page, post links, and eventually we'll have like a long form sort of playlist where that way
Oh
that
yeah, good.
people can you can just turn it on and leave it on for 6 days if you really wanted to. Um, but it kind of, since this is our first year and things
Yeah.
will probably be a little small, um, I think that it'll probably be manageable enough that if people share things and stuff, that we can manually kind of build a list out. Don't have to have anything that's too automated just yet. I mean, I could be surprised. I don't know. But I sure hope that people will take a little time and create a little bit of content. Um, just to kind of share their love of this
Mm-hmm.
hobby. So again, we want people to build friendships. We want them to promote retro Mac computing. Use the hashtag marchintosh.com. If you, or I'm sorry, not marchintosh.com, hashtag Marchintosh. Um, and you can, if you tag across multiple platforms, that's just more media impressions. So that way,
Sure,
that
sure.
hopefully somebody will organically either be find it or be redirected by the algorithm. Uh, the if you're like, well, I'm not sure. It's like, I know with when I did a December video last year, I had to make my own logo because I couldn't find anywhere where people were sharing some of the just the basic things you might need for participation.
Uh-huh.
If you go out to marchintosh.com, we have a welcome guide that will kind of explain the event, explain how to participate, how to best kind of promote your content during the event. We have a style guide out there where if you look at the style guide, we actually have done all the hard work of creating uh, logos and uh, sort of some guidance on fonts to use and things like that. Because it's very easy to just throw Times New Roman or whatever Helvetica on everything. But I think like Chicago is kind of that quintessential Mac font.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
try to use those things. Mac it up as much as you can. But we've got artwork out
Fantastic.
there, logos that you can put on your videos. We also, at some point, we'll add a sort of a template for like a bug so that if TV people, it's like, when you watch a channel, they got a little logo down in the corner, that we have a template that you can just overlay on your iMovie or overlay on Vegas or whatever you use for editing, or so that way that you can have something that kind of stays kind of on brand, like as your video goes on or whatever.
Nice. Very
But
nice. Well, I'm looking forward to trying to do something myself with this, and I have to say I'm pretty excited, and looking forward to seeing what everyone comes up with.
I am too. I think that this is a very, very creative community. I think there's a lot of people that have stepped forward and said, "This is something we've needed for a while. Let's make it work." So again, it's first year, so you have to have reasonable sort of expectations of how things will go.
Hmm.
We might hit a few bugs, but don't let that dissuade you from having fun and getting your content out there for new people that maybe you've never reached before to see.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Okay. So let's see what else we have. Yes. Yes, Chris. Definitely wish I had more classic Mac shows over the summer because it was for everyone. It was pretty. Like all the retro shows normally that I would have gone to this summer. Southwest Computer. Southeast Computer Retro Computer Fair, Kansas Fest, which is a huge one, and I'm so sad that it was still that they did a virtual event and it was still awesome, but going to events like that where you can actually get to meet other people in person is it's definitely its own thing. It's really something else.
Hmm.
But so I'm looking forward to seeing what virtually people come up with.
Yeah. We took a side trip to, I think in January, took a side trip down to, well, maybe not even January. It might have been last part of last year. Yeah, it sure seems like it. Down to Computer Reset. So that was
Not familiar with that one.
what?
Computer
You
Reset? No.
Computer Reset in like right outside of Arlington, Texas. That's that huge warehouse of old computers and retro gear and all that. LGR did a video about it maybe about a year and a half ago, where it's like down there because you've got the Dallas Fort Worth sort of area where you've got like all these people that were like Apple and Compaq and HP and IBM and Texas Instrument, and like dozens and dozens of all these tech companies in the Dallas Fort Worth area. And a lot of these folks, when they would like discontinue an item, or they would just, like, oh, we've got a million of these FRUs, we need to get rid of these. There's a company down there that was called Computer Reset, where it was kind of a dumping ground for that stuff, where
Wow.
he'd go in like when IBM discontinued the PC Junior, the owner of Computer Reset basically just bought like 7 tractor trailer trucks full of PC Juniors and RAM expansions and serial cards and joysticks and monitors and printers, and basically all of IBM's backstock on that. And it wasn't just that. It was, Apple was down there too. He'd buy, there were pallets. Like when I went there, there were pallets of color composite monitors. And like they were not like boxed or anything like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was something that at one time that this was new stuff, and it was palletized and it was ready to be sold to customers. But it's a huge
Fantastic. Wow.
repair operation. If you've not heard of Computer Reset, it's
No,
it's
no.
worth going out and kind of watching Joe's video, because, or not Joe, sorry, LGR, Clint's video, just because it was kind of the early days before the team that has been kind of the curators of that place now, that the owner has passed away, kind of clean things up, organize things. So went down there, and it was just amazing. It's such a museum, and there's literally things there that are going to end up now in computing museums, because they were like, oh my gosh, like these IBM like prototypes and stuff that just somehow ended up in their collection there.
That is great. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to look for that video. That
Sorry,
sounds
that's a weird tangent to go off on, but
no.
it's a very exciting thing. And if you go out to, they have a website, and you can go out there and, or I'm sorry, they have a Facebook page for Computer Reset, and you can get an appointment to go there. And they only allow like X amount of people in at a time, just because of COVID restrictions. And but it is like, if you are like a computer user from like the late 70s, 80s, 90s, it is such a like a weird experience to see like retailed boxed items that have been like, just unobtainium for decades.
Fantastic. Well, all right. We'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and do the last segment, which is
Okay.
a little bit of news. So let's go ahead and start here. So a couple of interesting things in the retro news is, first of all, there is another interesting auction. This one is for a vintage Apple retail sign,
Mhm.
starting bid $12,000. So this is, it looks like it was probably a backlit sign. It looks like it's printed on plastic. Printed, maybe? I'm not exactly sure. One of the things of note on this is, so it falls somewhere in the time of, it has the wider green stripe on the top versus the very, very skinny of the very early logos. But look at the Mater Tectura font on this.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's like, it's a lot skinnier than what you would normally expect it to be. And I don't know if this is like vinyl cut and the vinyl is shrunk, or if it's just it was just, that's what they had for the font. It wasn't exactly the Mater Tectura that we're used to seeing.
Well, the description says that it's an acrylic sign,
Okay.
so there could be some warping
So
and things like that sitting out in the sun. Who knows? But
right. Yeah. Yeah,
4
very
feet by
interesting.
5 feet.
It
That's
is, yeah.
pretty.
It's a big sign.
Mhm.
You can't really tell that looking at the picture, of course, but boy, that would be a pretty awesome thing to have out here. Nice backlit.
Yeah,
I have to say
absolutely.
the so it does look like it's maybe yellowed a little bit, but for how
Mhm.
old this thing probably is, it's not bad. It's not too bad.
Yeah. I think people get really, starting bid of $12,000. As
Yeah.
as a person of reasonable means, I I sort of see stuff like that, and I think, it's be ambitious. I guess you've potentially got a piece of Apple history, but keep in mind, I've never seen this before,
Right.
and there's
This could have just been done by a local company somewhere that
yeah.
happened to sell apples. hence the font not being maybe exactly
Hmm.
what it's supposed to be,
Right.
as opposed to something that was on at, that actually was used at like one infinite loop or something like that.
Right.
It's probably just a dealer sign.
I think a lot of
But
these items without a COA,
right,
you're just describing the value that you would place on it more than like
yeah.
an antiques roadshow sort of thing. You know.
Yeah, but something like this makes me happy that I work at a place where I've got access to a large format printer. Is all I'm going to say. may not be may not be original, but darn it, it looks cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of looking cool, how would you like a color iMac? As in like a different color shell? Because the rumor is
Hmm.
that the next iteration of the iMac with the Apple Silicon inside is going to be, I don't know if iPad Air style colors, which are
Hmm.
kind of these lighter pastel-ish sort of ones. I would like to see something maybe was a bit richer in colors.
Hmm.
But I have to say it's about time that they put a little bit of color back into their lineup of desktop Macs.
Yeah. Space
Yeah.
gray, silver, rose gold, green, and blue sky. It's they're very reminiscent of like you're saying with the iPad Air colors.
hmm
Um,
But
but
this is just rumor right now. Who knows for
right.
sure?
Well, I see a full size SD card slot on the back, so just I'm I'm kind of thinking that there'll be maybe some these kind of
Well,
like
again, this is a mock-up, so
mock-ups.
who knows
Yeah,
what? Yeah, because you can also see that
it better have
it's
FireWire
got the
800. That's all I'm saying.
it's got the thicker edges, which I understand. Why
Hmm.
they when they did this mock-up, because they're kind of going back to the, it doesn't have to be something that you can cut a pizza with on the side of your
Hmm.
Macintosh. It doesn't have
Right.
to be razor sharp. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they come out with. I am very curious as to what's going to happen with the whatever the next version of the Mac Pro is.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if they're going to maybe, to keep some better compatibility, if they're going to have a dual processor, as in like Apple Silicon, and still maybe an Intel
Yeah,
processor. I
that
could
would be
see them maybe
interesting.
doing something like that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. All I have to say is I still do not own anything with Apple Silicon, but I could possibly see getting a Mac Mini at some point in the future.
Yeah, I work in higher ed, and we were actually looking the other day because we're gonna replace some labs, and the uh, that I was sort of like I was like, when are these iMacs coming? These M1
Ah,
iMacs.
yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hurry up. It's like Mac Minis are okay, but it's they often seem to get paired with like some very pedestrian accessories.
Ah,
So it
mm-hmm.
was like it would be nice to have like a beautiful space with sort of the like some machines like this. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, very good. All right, we will stop that. Let's see what we got here. The color side faces the opposite of the user on the desk, so you get to see a color stand. Very true, very true. There's if it's anything like the other ones, you may get a little splash of color along the bottom, um, but I could see. Did you see the what was it, the company that does the retro paint? Makes it look like I don't know if you're familiar with a color. Is it Colorware? Is that the name of the?
hmm,
They they've done some very cool. Let me find it real quick.
custom painted products and skins. Oh yeah, that's pretty neat.
Oh, did you find it?
Oh yeah, well, assuming I got to the right place, but it's they have all manner of things where it's like AirPod sort of and MacBook covers and
Right, right. Yeah,
yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty.
it's a cool look. I kind of like the fake vents on the side,
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
did.
that.
I
Yeah,
did see. I saw a
they're
picture without
crazy expensive.
context of this the other day. So that's
Right. I do believe that Cult of Mac did their own story on the possible colors, and I believe
Mhm.
they used the iMac version of the colorware.
Mhm.
So that's quite possibly
That
that you saw
machine
it recently.
kind of maybe reminiscent of like the 2E, just because of
Yes,
the vents and things like
the
that. But
vents. Mm-hmm.
man, I love that Snow White design language. I just
Mm-hmm.
like a 2GS, and like the there's just something about that, like all those little vents and stuff. But that's my era. That's where I'm from. So I'll always love kind of the look of those things. But I know that for a long time Apple really tried to fight that, where it was like when these devices came out, that they very
Yeah.
much kind of leaned into like skeuomorphism,
Mm-hmm.
and like where it's like, oh well, if it's a like if it's a save icon, it's got to look like a floppy, and eventually those things sort of like, you run out of steam on some of those ideas.
Sure.
So I know John Ivey, when it was like, we're going to redesign iOS to kind of get away from all the skeuomorphism,
Mm-hmm.
the joke was that they ran out of green felt. So if you remember if you remember like the games app, or the whatever it is, the home for sharing scores and having friends and stuff on all
Uh-huh.
the game stuff on there, it was all like a card table with like green
Oh, that's
felt and
funny.
stuff
Oh
like
my
that. Yeah.
gosh.
So
Wow.
they uh they kind of moved away from that, but I love little callbacks on that stuff. So
Uh-huh.
I hope that they would kind
Bring a
of,
little bit, yeah.
yeah,
Sparkle some more,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, so in
You got
the
a
I see
proud
in the comments
history,
here. Well, I did not see the article. There's an M1 specific virus. Malware nicknamed Silver Sparrow specifically targets Apple computers with the new M1 chips. Wow. Uh, Good
It was
tip,
only a matter
Jeremy.
of time.
We'll have to look at that. Huh. Wow. All right. So we are gonna oh yeah, I like also all things. DG said I like to remind my family that the Macs are like cars, but way smaller and cheaper. I
Mhm.
just need racks, not more garages. Yes, very true, very true. I have a very understanding wife because my two hobbies are collecting old Macintoshes and also I collect arcade games. Fortunately, she's all on board for the arcade games.
Mhm.
But yes, it is. I'm sure sometimes she wishes I took up stamp collecting, where my entire collection fit into a binder. But that's yeah. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to do the outro.
Okay.
If you would like, normally I end the show with James saying it's not old, and I say it's retro. Would you like to do the it's
Here.
retro part?
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So all right. Well, that is it for this week's show. Ron, thank you so much for coming on and substitute co-hosting with me and talking about Marchintosh. Next week we have Mark Jositis from Mac Effects on the show to talk about his latest Kickstarter and maybe some follow-ups on finding out what is up in the future. So until next week, it's not old.
It's retro.
Awesome. That is great. All right, well, Ron, this has been so much fun talking to you.
Yeah.
I meant to ask you though. So we found out. I found out talking to you. You are younger than me. So did you grow up with any Apple II stuff, or is it pretty much Macintosh?
Well, like when every like my parents had a 2GS that they bought secondhand from my aunt and uncle. But before that, like my actual first exposure is I used to live in South Carolina, and our school had like one computer, and it was a Apple II Plus that was on a roll around cart.
Ha!
And so it was on a roll around cart with like a little, I mean, a 19-inch TV, guys. 19-inch TV. And so the idea was you could go into the library at lunch and you could kind of play around with it. And they had some software for it and things, but it
Right.
was very, very limited. But one thing they had was logo. So I would sit in there, and they had a little book for logo. And
Uh,
what I did is I figured out and I drew, like I went to public school, but the sort of the logo for our school, like our little
ha!
crest or whatever. It wasn't a very complicated thing, but I went in logo and drew it. And I showed the librarian, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is really great." And especially since you could then say, you know, beep, 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 draw it, and it would just in real time sort of sit there and
Right.
draw the thing. So it was like people that didn't have a lot of exposure to computers are very, very impressed by that. And so they were like, we want to show everyone. And so they wheeled the little computer classroom to classroom, and they let it draw, and everybody was like some kids were like, wow, this is really neat. And it was the biggest mistake in my life because I never got to use that computer again after that, because
Because everyone
everybody
does.
was in there at
Oh, that's
lunch
funny.
or
Yeah.
like on a recess wanting to use the
Right.
machine to draw things and do stuff. So I got usurped by a bunch of people that wanted to draw um, genitalia with logo on this computer. Uh,
Oh my
ah.
gosh.
And then years later, they got more things after I was out of there. But
So, all right.
it's
So it sounds like that was me in high school. When I first got to high school, there was, when I first got to high school in 1980, they had like a printer terminal hooked up to a computer at a bank somewhere in town. So, you could kill a tree playing a lemonade stand,
yeah,
just by the ream of paper that you went
hmm
through to
yeah.
play lemonade stand. But then they got an Apple II Plus. But by the time I left in '84, they had an entire lab with maybe 20 Apple IIe's. It was pretty
hmm
nice. But
Yeah, my high school, like our writing lab and stuff, they had like a ton of like Apple IIs, like Apple IICs
wow,
with like the
okay,
little 9-inch monochrome monitor where you could go in
sure,
there
sure,
and
sure,
type a
sure.
paper and stuff, like
Yeah.
one or two Macintoshes. Um, and but like when I was in high school, our media center library on campus, they had a whole bank of like 2Es and 2C pluses and things like that, where you could just go in there, play around, and they didn't really care because it was by that time it was old. It was like the early 90s. The So if you wanted to like hey, like the electronics people, they have like a bunch of these little breadboard cards, and you could like do like little electronics projects and things
Hmm.
in there, and it was pretty much kind of an open space to like break things and and have fun. So I always kind of loved that experience, and love those Apple IIs. It's
Yeah.
because that's really where I got my start, and then much later
Hmm.
Macs and all that type of stuff.
Sure,
So
sure. Well, cool. All right. Well, that sounds great. Uh, yeah, I still really enjoy my Apple II stuff.
mhm.
Yeah,
I,
I've got
I can
that
tell.
2E
I
card
can
from my
tell.
Color Classic. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I've got my nice. So yeah, of all the computers I ever bought new, which yes, there you go. Do you have the Y cable?
I actually do. I have.
Nice.
I'm that's part of my Macintosh thing or Marchintosh thing. I'm going to do a video because there's a company called IEC that pretty reasonably priced. They'll make you a Y cable, but then
Okay.
also there's some people, or there's a like Dougie out there on the that Mac forum whose name I can never remember. The MK68, whatever whatever it is, was making these little prototype boards that just plugs directly into the 2E card and gives you the floppy interface and
Really?
joystick. Yeah. So
I had not seen those.
yeah, he calls it the 2E card IO breakout. Um, but it's he made a bunch of these in 2016 and then just sat on them. And I talked to him last year and picked one up. So if you have like a 2E or something like that, I mean that's a pretty svelte sort of
That
solution
is
for having
fantastic.
your
I'm
ports
gonna
and
have
stuff.
to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Well, when the
try to find
forum's
that.
back up, man, you'll have to look it up.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, that is great. That is
Mhm.
great. All right, well, guys, thanks everyone in the chat for joining us today. This has been an awesome time talking to you, Ron,
John, I had a
and
blast. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing what all people get to do, get up to for Marchintosh. All right, bye everyone.